1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Big Johnny G's my favorite.
What's up, nerds and nerdettes and wee little nerdlings all? It's your buddy Big Johnny G. Two Gun Pixie presents Legendary Gaming. So what's up indeed, everyone? We are here with another episode of Big Johnny G's 5 Favorite. And this is where I give a rundown of my favorite. I like to call this my favorite instead of best of or greatest of all time. It's not so arbitrary. I think in all honesty, I'm just giving you a list of what my favorites are. So here we are with my favorites. And as you saw from the thumbnail, this is my favorite. My 5 favorite 1 vs. all games. Those games where one person is running things, one person is usually the bad guy, and the other players are working cooperatively, sometimes semi-cooperatively, in order to achieve a goal against the one player. Very cool. Why don't we talk about them? Because I know you must have some games that fit that category that you think are great games. So why don't we go over, we'll talk about mine, and then put yours down in the comment. I'll see you all down at the table. Hey, so thanks for coming down here and deciding that you wanted to hear what I think about some of the best, my favorite, I don't like to use that phrase, my favorite 1 vs. all games. So we have a nice mix here, looking over it, of different genres and a couple of different styles of 1 vs. all. Alright, so right off the bat I just want to say, as an honorary mention, right up front, I did not include Spectre Ops on the list, which is one of my favorite games. And the reason I didn't is because, honestly, although the game shines no matter how you play it, I just really think it shines best. And my favorite way of playing it is with 5 players. So it's technically 2 against all. But that's why I didn't include it, but otherwise, it really deserves to be in the top list of 1 vs. all games. But speaking of that list, why don't we start with my number 5. Coming in, right down there at the bottom, the base of the pyramid, holding it all together, so to speak, we have a Parker Brothers game. Parker Brothers and Hasbro, I believe, yes. Parker Brothers and Hasbro. And it's a game, Dungeons and Dragons, fantasy adventure, board game. Now, I think that this deserves a spot on the list for several reasons. One, it really does absolutely feel like a fusion between a board game and an old school Dungeons and Dragons module. They did a great job of combining the feeling of the two, while, unlike the cooperative games here, this has a Dungeon Master. And that's where the 1 vs. all comes in. And it's a nice touch having a Dungeon Master in a board game. Kind of reminds me of being Zargon in Hero Quest back in the day. Another thing I like about this game is that the characters you get to play in the game are the iconic characters that 3rd edition of 3X was using at the time this came out. This actually came out with 3.0. But the characters are still the same, with Redgar and Miley and Lita and Jozon, the 4 characters in the base game that you get to choose from. And it's a really nice touch getting to see those characters and to play them in a, albeit it's Dungeons and Dragons, but still in a different game. It's really cool. The rules are simple. The rules are simple. The symbols and the iconography, I can say that, the iconography that the game uses is really simple. The person running the game as Dungeon Master should have no problem understanding this game, the first read-through of the rules. I always find it best when reading through the rules to have all the components out on the table in front of me. But yeah, one read-through and the Dungeon Master of the board game will understand it, will have an easy time teaching it to the other players. Now, this game really does deliver on some of the classic great feel of, well, as Munchkin puts it, kicking in the door, killing the monsters, and stealing their stuff. It really does. It has a great feel of that. Now, it isn't all just mindless hack and slash. The game has a story that you're working through and you're building through, and there are reasons why things are happening, and there is a light RPG feel to the game as well. So it's not all just running around as a murder hobo, but those parts are really fun. And last, I want to say that I think this game is a great introduction, especially for younger players, but not only for younger players, but it's a great introduction to Dungeons and Dragons. Yes, the rules are going to be different between the board game and the role-playing game, but everything else is going to be so familiar, and it's going to be able to give that person a chance to get a taste of what, not real, I almost said real D&D, but that's not right, what different and definitely more fuller Dungeons & Dragons experience is. This game is a great introduction. My number 4 coming in. This game is by Fantasy Flight Games, and it is Star Wars Imperial Assault. Now, I gotta say that the not just the thematic setting of the game, but how they work the thematic setting into the game itself, how the game and the setting are completely inseparable, absolutely inseparable. And this game, because of that, gives you such an immersion of sensation into the Star Wars universe. It is unbelievable. While playing this game, both the Rebel players and the Imperial player that they're working against, everyone gets to level up. I mean, it doesn't use levels. It's not a leveling system. It uses skills, gear, equipment, abilities to simulate raising levels, gaining experience, getting better. And in this game, some one versus alls do it. Not all of them, but in this game, I think it's a great example of how it works to a very great balance. Both the Rebels and the Imperial forces will get the chance to do that. We'll get a chance to raise their abilities, to learn new abilities, to incorporate new cards into their decks, to get new strategies or allies to bring out into the game and the field. And it does. It keeps the balance. Like balance of the Force, but that's not what I meant. It keeps the balance between the Rebels and the Imperial player really great. It's a very, very good balancing point it's at. Now, of course, this is a Fantasy Flight game, so like I almost said all, but that's not quite true. But like most of their big games, it is supported by a huge system of expansions. The game comes with the base game, which covers the time period immediately after the destruction of the Death Star at the Battle of Yavin. Immediately after, I mean, I think as the first mission opens up, there are pieces still raining down on the moon of Yavin as the game begins. The next is a small box set, Twin Suns, which brings it back to Tatooine. All right, so the main box and the small expansion box covers technically the first movie, even though it's the end of it's the first movie. And then the next big box is Hoth, with a small box expansion of Bespin. Covers the Empire, right? The second movie. You see where I'm going with this. And on the side, there are great ally packs that you can get to enrich your gaming experience and add more of the iconic Star Wars characters to your hand. And listen, I gotta tell you, on a side note, just talking about how the iconic characters,
fit into this game, it is such a great feeling during a game session when you get to save one of them or just interact with one of them. And if you're using the miniatures, if you go out and buy the miniatures, they have little adventure packs with them. And if you complete the adventure pack successfully, then you're going to get their card in your deck, and you can use them as an ally, and then you have the little miniature for it. And it's just so cool knowing that you're helping the main guys. So if you weren't helping them, they'd perish, and the movie would the movie would be completely different, and the Empire would probably have won. So any adventure you have with them, and they don't die in that adventure, you can move a little forward in your thoughts and be like, yeah, so technically I defeated the Empire, because if I didn't save Luke, right? That's the way I feel about it. It gets a little fun. Just think about it like that. Trust me, it's fun. Now, my number 3 game is also by Fantasy Flight Games, and this, I'm looking at my list, and so yeah, it's kind of funny, kind of cool, funny, right? So the first game was a fantasy game. The second is a science fiction game, or science fantasy, if you want to cut hairs. This game is a horror game. So I like I have a nice mix here of feels, genres, themes for everyone. But yeah, so this is by Fantasy Flight Games, and this is the 3rd edition. I never played the first 2, and I haven't even gotten my hands on the 4th yet. So I'm talking about my edition, the 3rd edition of Fury of Dracula. The first thing I noticed about this game, the very first time I played it, was how it generated this great amount of fun revolving around an old school style cinematic world chase. And I could almost picture in my mind, like the old Universal black and white horror films, and where somebody is traveling and it fades out and then it fades into, like this map, and you can almost see in the background a plane, but the main image is the map and the dotted line, and I totally get that feeling. They did a great job, and this also has to do with the art on the board. All invokes, does a great job all invoking this feeling, this sensation that you're really in this 1940s Universal movie chase scene. It's really fitting for the game. It's really fun that this game picks up, albeit several years later, but picks up where Bram Stoker left off. It uses the same characters. It uses the 4 main characters in the book, and the funny thing is, Mina already has a bite wound. Because the amount of bite wounds that you get in the game can be detrimental and take you out, as you can well imagine. So it's funny, she starts with 1 less health because she's already got that. But so the characters are recognizable, they're fun, and this way it also avoids the whole backstory thing of if these were new people, different adventurers, why do they believe this? Why do they think this is going on? This just jumps right into it with the characters that you already know, and that gave me a great feeling when I played this game. The other thing, and this kind of harkens to, I think, my first point, but I love the cat and mouse feel of this. A lot of one versus all games don't really run this way. Usually it's the one bad guy and everyone's, trying to survive the bad guy or take him down or something. But this is different because you don't necessarily want to face the hunters. It's possible you can eventually take enough wounds and they could just kill you. You're Dracula. You're not immortal. Well, you are, but you're not. You're immortal, but you can be taken down. Your lifespan is immortal, but you can still fall prey to predators or humans. Predators, yeah. So you don't really want to. You want to be devious. And the cat and mouse that this causes in the game is so much tension-laden fun. It is. This tension is there. I'd be a liar if I said it wasn't, but because of the theme of the game and getting into the game, that tension really feels fun. So the way the turn works in this game too is something else I highly enjoy, because it's again thematic. It's extremely thematic, and the turns are done by a day-night cycle. So the hunters can be active day or night. Humans, although we may be built inside us to be diurnal, we can be nocturnal as well. Vampires, however, generally speaking, not going to delve too much into the Bram Stoker vampire myth of drinking blood and sunlight. Not jumping into all that. Just generally speaking, vampires avoid the sunlight. They do. So the Dracula player only goes once during a turn, while the human players, the mortals, the hunters, are acting twice. It really gives the flow of the game a sense of realism to a fiction novel. But yes, I think you understand what I mean. It does. It gives it this sense of realism, adding to the entire flow of the game and just making you just fall under its spell. And I don't know, I kind of mentioned it already, but the board is beautiful. I just want to end off by saying that the board to this game looks like it was literally just ripped right out of a Victorian atlas. And I say this a lot because it's true. Beautiful boards or cards, designs for board games, they make you want to look at them. And if you want to look at them, you obviously want to play the game more than a game that you don't like the artwork for. And this is ripped right out of the time period. It's great. All right, so we are at the top two, not 11, 2. So my number 2 here is a game from Privateer Press. Now, this is the middle of a trilogy of games. The middle. Generally speaking, the middle of a trilogy isn't the strongest in novels and in movies. So generally, I didn't say always, there are exceptions. We're not talking about that. Now, this game, however, makes it an exception because each of the 3 games is actually different, even though it's continuing a storyline. The game I'm talking about is Level 7 Omega Protocol. Now, in the first game, it was run as a complete escape game. You were trying to escape this human alien base in Dulce, New Mexico. Has nothing to do with another game I have that's an awesome escape game from Dulce, New Mexico. Just building on modern myth and ufology, right? That's it. So the first game is an escape game, and because of the player's escape, it left the place in ruins, which brings us to the second game. You're not playing any of the same characters. They're gone, they're dead, maybe one of them escaped. You're playing these sort of Special Corps Marines. I almost said Space Marines, but you're not in space. But they do, because they remind me exactly of the Space Marines from Aliens. And instead of going to an alien planet, it's instead going to a secret Dulce base in a mesa in New Mexico. Other than the place difference, yeah, it really does kind of feel like playing a Marine in the Aliens sequel movie. It does. Now, this game, unlike the others, are all 2 to 5 players. This game is a 2 to 6 players, because there can be up to 5 members of the mercenary team. 5 members of the elite core military team that's being sent in. And so trust me, you're gonna need that other player. Now, this game uses a very interesting, as the previous game to it, Escape did. This uses a method of using and gaining action points in order to do what you want to do. The military individuals, in order to do actions, they get to spend adrenaline, and that adrenaline that gets spent goes to the alien overseer, the player that's running all the aliens that are amok in the base. And then he's able to use that adrenaline. He or she has a dashboard that is prepared before the adventure that has several of your options on it that you can do. Sending in more troops, causing rooms to collapse, things like that. Gas attacks. And you're able to use the adrenaline you get from the players literally to fuel what you're doing. So the balance between how much adrenaline do they want to spend versus what they want to do, versus how much of that's going to get spent back against them. It is a wonderfully fun balance of action points. This is a tile laying game, and tiles, the artistic design on the tiles is absolutely on mark. It is spot on. You cannot not think of some sci-fi gone wrong / mad scientist kind of setup when you see these tiles, because that's all that really leaps out of you. They did a great job, and I really think they should be applauded on the art that they did on the tiles. I also like the fact that for the players, in order for the players to do certain things, they specifically have to have their characters in different stances. Now, this is something I've seen in a couple of games. I know the Firefly Adventures board game uses something similar. Either I forgot what they call it. It's either like an action pose and a casual pose. It's a little bit deeper. I think there's 4 or 5 different stances that the mercenaries can take during the course of their turn, and each one will grant them different bonuses or negatives on their stats, on their abilities, and what they can and cannot do. And I really think that's very interesting and slightly sort of realistic. I like that. Now, as I previously mentioned for the Star Wars Imperial Assault one, this is another great example of a game using abilities and skills and gear to simulate going up levels instead of a traditional leveling system. As I said, sometimes it works for me, sometimes it doesn't. And like Star Wars Imperial Assault earlier, this, I also got to say, it works for me. I think that the system for the game, it wouldn't work as good if it was a more traditional RPG style leveling system. Great use of abilities and skills in this game. Numero uno, number 1. Where is it? What is it? Who's it by? This is a game by Osprey Games, and yes, this is my personal favorite, at least for now. Number 1, One vs. All Games. Escape from Colditz. Now, this is a true life game. During World War II, Colditz Castle was one of the most notorious POW camps behind enemy lines in Nazi Germany. It was boasted a prison that could not be escaped from. Actually, a lot of prisoners escaped. But honestly, most of them were recaptured, usually within the next day or two. So very few people actually escaped for good from this place. One of them was Major Pat Reed. He was with the British Armed Forces. And he ended up writing a novel. There was a BBC miniseries. I think there may even have been a second one, but I know there was an early BBC miniseries on it, and a movie, all based on his story of what happened. Now, the board game comes with a history book, which is amazing because it is a condensed version of some of the things that the prisoners try to do to escape. And they're all true stories. And I'm telling you, they feel like they're ripped right out of a sitcom, like Hogan's Heroes, some of these. You have to read them. It's hysterical. I can't believe if it wasn't the fact that they were POW officers, they would have been shot, definitely, for some of these antics. So that's a great touch. Just coming out of the gate. Just coming out of the gate about this game. That is a great fact, and it's something I absolutely love about it. Another thing I like about this game is, unlike the others, this is the only game on this list, my friends, that is semi-cooperative. All the others are fully cooperative. This is only semi-cooperative. And this is semi-cooperative because the prisoners are broken up into the nationalities. So you have British POWs that are being played by one player, You'll have French POWs being played by another. Polish is another group of POWs. I can't remember them all. America. Is America in there? Because I don't think in real life there was no American soldiers at Colditz recorded. But I think in the game that's an option. But each player is playing the what's called the escape officer. And these are the officers designed to oversee the escape plans and then talk to the other escape officers to make sure nobody is stepping on anyone else's toes and overlap each other and cause accidents. You know, a way to not be bumbling their way through this like the Keystone Cops. So, this is semi-cooperative. You know that it's you and the other officers versus the Nazi officer player, the security guard player. But other than that, they're on their own. It might be yous versus them, but taking them out of the picture and it's just yous, it ain't just yous. It's just you. Got a little New York there with all the yous. But no, it's true. That's what makes it semi-cooperative. You may or may not help the other players as you see fit. Now, a nice touch about this game is the board is unchanged from the original. The 75th anniversary edition to the game, the board is absolutely identical. That's because it's based on a real place. Mainly because it's based on a real place. But besides that, a lot of the gear and stuff that you're going to get is going to be in specific rooms in that real life place. So the board hasn't changed at all. What's changed is an update to the rules. Well, if you're like me and you've never played the original Colditz, the original rulebook is in there. And it shows you step by step how to play using those first rules. That is a great touch. I like the fact that it gives the option. So even if you have no interest, or maybe you've tried the new game and you don't like it, you prefer, you wish you still had the original game, you can buy the new game and play the original rules. Great selling point for marketing, definitely. But as far as the players go, it's a really great touch. It's a nice touch. And I applaud them. I thank them for that. You know, I also want to mention the components of this game. So it doesn't use miniatures, it doesn't use meeples, it just uses pawns. Very Euro. I like that touch. I have seen custom sets that have actual little tiny soldiers, and I admit that looks cool, but I like the Euro touch of just using the pawns. But let me tell you something. The components come in a Red Cross care package. Talk about a great thematic touch. And plus there's photocopies, there's replications of some of the actual paperwork and the wanted posters that the Germans, that the Nazis were putting up when soldiers escaped. And talk about a great touch, because yeah, it's a copy, it's not the original, but you're looking at a representation, a near exact representation of actual wanted posters that the Nazis put up. Talk about a time capsule. Yeah, this game feels more like it's supposed to feel than any other game. I honestly think. Right now, anyway, that's my opinion at the moment. Clock it in. Well, those are my five. Those are my five. Let me know what you thought of my five. Let me know what you thought I'm crazy about, shouldn't be on the list. Let me know what you think should be on the list. And also, hey, maybe you like my list, but you don't agree with the order. Let me know. Let's start a discussion about it. All right, so thank you very much, everyone. Thank you so much for checking us out over on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thank you so much for going over and looking at some of the things that we've left over there. Ooh, left over there. We also got a Zazzle store, print on demand, with a lot of cool nerdy designs and RPG-inspired stuff. Hats, t-shirts, steins. We got a lot of stuff. And thank you, everyone, for going over and looking at it, for checking it out. Even if you didn't buy anything, thank you for at least taking a look. I appreciate you spending your time there. But most of all, we here at Two Gun Pixie love the fact that you come over here to our YouTube home, you subscribe to our channel, you watch our videos, you like some of them, you comment on some of them, and when we're lucky, thank you so much for this, when we're lucky, you share one of our videos. That's the greatest way to tell any content creator that you really enjoyed their work and you want to let people know that you think it's worthy of their time as well as yours. Kudos to all of you. Huzzah! Thank you very much, everyone. I'm your buddy Big Johnny G for Two Gun Pixie Presents. What the heck was that? Legendary Gaming! Gotcha. Got some of you. All right, take care.